Alright, so in this week's lesson, we're going to go back to the basics and do something that's kind of easy, but also sounds good. That's always a challenge, to find something that's easy to play and has some good educational material, but still sounds good at the same time, so you have something that you're motivated to play. And so I'm going to play the little composition here in a minute, but I just wanted to set this up. So we're going to be playing a 1-4-5 chord structure in one position of the neck. So we're going to be between the 2nd fret and the 6th fret, and everything we're going to be doing is in this one zone, or this neighborhood. That's what I like to call these things. And so it just makes you think of the neck in a different way. Instead of thinking about all the frets and all these options, we're going to limit our scope to this one area. We're going to play our 1-4-5 chord, we're going to play some harmonies, we're going to play some lead fill licks, and a nice little melody all in this one region. So let me go ahead and play that just so you can hear what we're going to do, and then we'll break it all down note for note and I'll explain everything. So here's what we're going to learn. It's in the key of G. Now that may sound very simple, and it is simple, but there's a lot there, because you could take that same thing that I just played and that we're going to learn, maybe change the groove a little bit, and you'd have something like this. Anyway, it's just to give you ideas, obviously, but that's what we're going to be looking at, is the 1-4-5 chord structure in this one region here. And if you'd like to have access to that second part as well as the tablature for everything, you can get all of that by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP425. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about are the 3 chords, the 1, the 4, and the 5 chord, that we're going to be playing in the key of G. So everything we're going to be doing here is in the key of G, but the good news is there's no open strings in this, so you can transpose this and play this in any key. If you want to move it to the key of A, you just move it up 2 frets, or wherever you want to go with it. But we're going to be playing the 3 chords, which are the G chord, the C chord, and the D chord. 1, 4, 5. And if you don't know what 1, 4, 5 is, those are just the numbers that are used in the major scale. So if we look at each note and we put a number to them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's your 1, 4, 5. That's where that comes from. G, C, D. Okay, we're going to stay in this region here. So our 1 chord is going to be a G, and we're going to be using the E shape out of caged. So it looks like this. So these 3 fingers are making up what looks like the E chord down in first position. We're just going to play them here. Our 4 chord, which is our C chord, we're going to play right here, and that's using the A shape out of caged. So think of your A chord in first position. Slide it up here, you're playing a C. So you have your G, your C. Now a standard approach might be to move that up 2 frets for your 5 chord, or your D chord. And that would be totally fine and acceptable, but just to give you another option and maybe a different way of looking at your chords, we're going to play our 5 chord using the C shape. So that's a D chord. In fact, if you look at these 3 notes, those are the notes that you would play if you were playing the D chord that you're probably familiar with. We're just going to add this little extension down here that converts that D chord like this into a D chord like this. That's all that is. In fact, if we were to look at these 3 fingers and slide it down, you can see that I'm playing a C chord. That's why we call this the C shape. We're using that same shape. We're just capoing now with our index finger, barring the first 3 strings there on the 2nd fret. Now we don't have to make the full chord like this. In fact, when I make it, I usually eliminate my pinky and just play strings 4, 3, and 2. I find that little triad there covers all the bases that you need for playing the chord out of this C chord shape. And I've never really been able to find a whole lot of reasons to add your pinky down here. It just makes it a little more complicated. So you can think of it that way. Think of that little triad there. So your 1 chord is a G chord using the E shape. Your 4 chord is a C using the A shape, and your 5 chord is a D chord using the C shape. So that's how you want to think about this. And you can see that all those chords are in the same neighborhood. We're going to be hanging out in this neighborhood here as we play through this. Okay, so now that we have those chord voicings and we can think about the chords, let's look at this little song structure, and this is all going to start to make sense. And really, this is designed to give you ideas. So yes, you can copy this, and yes, this is a great little composition to learn so that you can sit and practice going through the different chord voicings and the fill licks. But the big picture is to get you to start thinking about this and using this stuff when you play. Okay, so we're starting with a little lick that goes like that, and then strumming the G chord. Now I showed you how to play it like this, right? With a full bar on the 3rd fret. We don't need that. We're just playing the top 4 strings out of that. That's more than enough of that chord, to spell it out. So to do that, I'm just barring the first 2 strings here on the 3rd fret, and then, middle finger, 4th fret, 3rd string, ring finger, 5th fret, 4th string. So that little pickup lick goes like this. And those are just the notes of the chord, right? Just the little triad there. So I started on the 4th string, I slid into the 3rd string, 2nd string, back to the 3rd string, and then back to the 4th string. Super easy. The only nuance there is the slide. Every time I'm going to that 3rd string, I'm sliding into it. And now while I play that note, I'm making sure to play that with my ring finger so that I can strum the chord and just go down, up, down. It's super simple. Okay, now we're going to the 4 chord. Now watch this. Same idea, same concept. We're going to be playing off of that C chord. Now I'm playing the C triad up here. It's the same chord shape. It's still the same A shape, but this is the top part of the A shape. And I cover all of these shapes, by the way, in EP 273. So you can check out that lesson if you want a refresher on the cage system. And at least the way that I view it, I like to split some of these chords into 2 parts. This A shape, I like to be in 2 parts, the bottom half and the top half. It makes it easier. So we're doing the same thing. We're playing the notes of the chords, strings 1, 2, and 3. But I'm sliding in to the 2nd string, just like we did when we played over the G. So it's like that. And then after that, I came down and played the C chord using the A shape. So if we put those 2 chords together, G, C. Now to get us back to the G, I played a little fill lick and I went. So let's look at that. So I'm barring there really the first 2 strings on the 3rd fret. I play the 1st string, and then I do a quick slide from the 6th fret down to the 5th fret on the 1st string. So all of that actually is played on the 1st string. So it's, and then back to the 3rd fret. Then I come down to the 5th fret 2nd string. I'll explain where this is coming from in just a second. And then we hit strings 1 and 2 on the 3rd fret. And that represents your G chord, even though I'm just playing 2 strings. So all together, sounds like that. Now this note would be like G minor pentatonic scale. If you think of your pattern 1, that would be in that pattern 1 and doing a quick slide into the major pentatonic scale pattern 2. Now, if that's confusing to you, you can just skip it and think of it as a little fill lick for now. But that's what's going on. There's pattern 2 of the G major pentatonic scale. There's pattern 1 of the minor pentatonic scale. And they live in the same neighborhood. They live in this same E chord shape. It's just a real nice little bluesy lick. Okay, so after that, I'm going to keep that bar there on the 3rd fret, the first 2 strings, and play. So my ring finger comes down to the 5th fret, 3rd string, and I play strings 3 and 2, and then do a hammer on. So I'm barring the first 3 strings now on the 3rd fret, and I'm playing strings 2 and 3, and I'm hammering on to the 4th fret, 3rd string, and that is just building your G triad. That's all that is. So you can picture that chord shape. And everything we're doing here pretty much is kind of centered around that. Those are your landing notes. So you can play whatever little fills you want, but you want to land on one of those target notes there. Okay. And then after that, we're going to go to the 5 chord. And to do that, I went... Isn't that cool? So, I've got my G triad there. I'm playing strings 2 and 3 out of it. I'm hammering on to the 5th fret, 3rd string. And this would be like a G sus 4. That's all that is. And then we come down to that D chord using the C shape. Now remember, look at what's going on there. I've got my little bar there on the 3rd fret. I'm going to keep the bar. This time I'm going to be barring the first 3 strings on the 2nd fret. And I just have to reposition my middle finger and my ring finger into this position. And that's something you're going to want to practice, going from G to D. Look at what's moving there. You've got your ring finger sort of staying the same place. But these 2 fingers are hopping a little bit. So just practice that. 1 chord to the 5 chord. And think about that as you're doing it. The 1 chord to the 5 chord. Okay, so we have... Okay, now after I play the 5 chord, which is our D chord, and then I came in and played this 1 note. So I kept that shape there, but I put my pinky down on the 5th fret, 3rd string. And that converted that D chord into a D7. It's a really cool sounding D7. But the reason that I did that is that 7 chord, that dominant 7, is a nice pull to get us back to the 1 chord. And the cool thing about a blues is you can do that for every chord. So you could play a G, a G7, that takes me to the C. Then I can play a C7, and then go back to a G. And then we can go to a 5 chord, which is our D, and then play the D7, which gets us back to the G. So it's just this constant pull. Those 7 chords, those dominant 7 chords, are transition chords to me. They're tension chords, but they're a nice little transition to get you back. So anyway, we're playing the D here. We can add our pinky there to get the D7. All right, let me back up from the beginning and play up to that point. And then I come back to the 1 chord, basically doing almost exactly what we started with. It's a little different the way that I started that, because I'm starting on the 3rd fret, hammering onto the 5th fret, 2nd string. We go down to the 4th fret, 3rd string, 5th fret, 4th string. And then we strum the G chord. So that's all that's going on there. And actually you can go ahead and hit strings 1 and 2. Just to give it a more full sound. I actually like that better. And then there's your G strum, and then watch this. We're adding pinky now to the 6th fret, 2nd string to get that dominant 7 sound, just like I talked about. You can use that as your tension chord or your pull, your transition chord. And then we're going to go into the C chord. And I'm doing it the same way that I did before, with that slide up to the 2nd string, 5th fret. So we're sliding into that 5th fret, 2nd string. But you know where that's coming from now, right? It's coming from that little C triad. Now watch this. This is kind of cool. I thought that was kind of cool. So I did a little walk down here. And that's between the 2nd string and the 3rd string. It starts on the 5th fret. And you can see that's just your triad, right? Your C triad. Using the A shape, the top part of the A shape. But I'm going to keep this note, 5th fret, 2nd string. But I'm going to walk down to the 4th fret on the 3rd string, and then walk down again to the 3rd fret, 3rd string. Why did I do that? And then I played strings 2 and 3 at the same time that last time. The reason for that is still going into that dominant 7 thing. So we're on a C chord, and I could play the C7, which gets us back to the G, right? So that's what I'm doing, is I'm just targeting that one note out of the dominant 7 chord. So if I were to play it using the A shape, the way that I would do that, looks like that. I keep the bar there on the 3rd fret, and then I've got my pinky and my ring finger on the 5th fret, strings 2 and 4. So you take that 3rd string and drop that down 2 frets. That's what gives you the C7 using the A shape. But I didn't need to play the whole chord. I just wanted to play those 2 strings out of it. And that's a big takeaway, maybe a light bulb for some of you, is to start thinking about pieces of chords. I mean, when I realized that, it was a game changer. You don't always have to be playing a full chord. I can't stress this enough. So as we're going through this little exercise, when you're playing that, that's major pentatonic scale, or that's minor pentatonic scale. You can think of that either way, or you can just think of that as a G chord, right? It can represent your G chord. So these little pieces of chords, that could represent your G chord. So can that. So can that, right? All and so forth. Okay, from the beginning. Okay, and now we're going to play. So that's how we're going to get back to the 1 chord. So that's a walk down, 1st string on the 3rd fret. Then we're gonna go down to the 2nd fret. 5th fret, 2nd string. 3rd fret, 2nd string. And what are these notes? It's just your G major, G major scale. Couldn't get that out. And then we're going to walk down the chord there, right? See that triad, picture it. So you have, and then we go to the 5 chord, and then back to the 1 chord. Now when I played the 5 chord here, I'm playing it in a different spot. Remember, we played the 5 chord like this before, but now I'm playing it like this. So now I'm thinking about the C7, think of a C chord, 1st position. If you were to play a C chord and then add your pinky to the 3rd fret, 4th string, you're now playing a C7. Well, if you think of that shape and move that up 2 frets, that would be a C, C sharp, D. So that's another way. My point in doing that is just to show you an easy way to think about playing it. You can picture your C chord and then add your pinky there. But that's a D7 chord. So now you've learned a D7 like this, and then one like this. It's basically the same notes. There's just a few little differences. But what I like about this is it's in a little block form and it's easy to grab. It's a lot easier for me to grab than this C shape. A lot easier. So you've got your 1 chord and you've got this version of your dominant 7/5 chord in the same area. So in actual fact, you could go 1, 4, 5, 1. See that? 1, 4, 5, 1. Or the way we did it the first time, 1, 4, 5, 1. Okay. Then back to your G chord, C chord, and then 1 chord. It's kind of a gospel ending. 1, 4, 1. And that's the whole thing. That's your 1, 4, 5 played in this little neighborhood here between the 2nd fret and the 6th fret. And obviously we were playing that in the key of G, so we had a G, C, and a D chord. If you wanted to play in another key, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, you can just transpose and move everything up. So try doing that. That would be really good exercise. Once you get familiar with that, play it in A. All right? You can do the same thing, go through the same chords, but you're doing it in a different key. All right, let me give you a little teaser of what we're going to be playing in the part 2 video. This is what premium members would have access to. I just wanted to plug this so that if you're not a premium member, maybe this will encourage you to come over and check us out. We've got 10 years worth of lessons that you'd have access to. But anyway, it sounds like this. Okay, so head on over to activemelody.com and do a search for EP425. That's a lesson number for this lesson if you'd like to check out that second half and learn these chords in a different position. All right, let me back up and play through this one more time, what we learned in this video, and then now wrap this up, and we'll see you in part 2. All right, here we go.